about it.
Our own mind has to be changed. We have to change our mind about ourselves.
In what way?
A knowledge of self. If we could be cured of our slave mentality that was indoctrinated into us during slavery, we would realize that just as the white man can do these things for himself and his kind, we can get together in unity and harmony and do the same thing for ourselves and our kind.
Think about it.
Welcome to another episode of the Blueprint for Black Power podcast. I'm your host, Brother Dre. With me, you have my brother Tazamak Zarai and also my brother Rashad Sekou. How y'all doing today?
Doing well.
All right. Today it is episode 3 where we talk about force as power. Last week we had talked about the typology of power, the different types of power that the Europeans use in order to oppress Black people, and we went over some of those different aspects of power that are used against us. But now we're going to get in a little more detail. We're going to get a little more depth, and we're going to go into a specific type of power, which is force, using force or coercion as a means of getting people to do what you want them to do. So I know in the first, because this is a really good section, and there's a lot of meat in this section, and I want to try to make sure that we touch on everything. The first paragraph in particular, where once again, just like last week, he begins to explain having control of someone's action environment. You know what I mean? Controlling, because that's what it's all about, right? In order for you to really be able to manipulate people, you've got to control their environment. You know, how they operate, what they aspire to, what they think, pretty much 24/7. And that's what our environment, when you really think about it, has been designed to do. You know what I mean? And that's the reason why they rear us up as children the way that they do, where they kind of, teach us to focus on being workers, kind of serving the system, keeping this whole system going in the way that it does. And anybody that kind of veers off to the left or the right from that system usually doesn't, end up too well from them. You know what I'm saying? So we were talking about that last week, and it feels, not feels like, but he definitely, kind of was touching on that in that first paragraph. So that's what caught me. I know you had something that you want to say on that as well, Tazamak.
Well, I want to say on that in the sense of when we're talking about force of power can be used to cause affliction of some type of pain, hurt a person physically, mentally. A force of power can also be used to also destroy a person, take their life. However, one way that Brother Amos had brought out here when he was talking about the frustrations, you know what I'm saying? The frustrations of basic biological needs. And, and I wrote down some notes on that, and I broke down when you're talking about frustrations of basic needs, dealing with power, we're talking about power over compared to power to, which right. From the last segment. And what would those frustrations be, so forth, whereas we're talking about basic needs that would be pertaining to your food, shelter, clothing, even safety, because you should be as a citizen, complete to be an equal. You should be able to feel as though that the police system is here to protect you. And you should, and for some reason, us Black people, we don't feel protected. The most of us, we feel in some form fear of police. And at the same time, one of those basic needs, a job. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
In order to make all these other things, these other primary needs occur, you definitely would need a job. So these are forces of power. These forces of power make sure that these are the kind of frustrations that we have to deal with every day.
Right.
And
And
Brother Amos was bringing that out. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't mean, you know what I'm saying, force of power has to literally come at you with some type of force to inflict pain on you or to kill you. No, there's other ways to bring that about that's going to benefit them,
right.
which will get into
Right, exactly. As we keep on moving along, exactly. You know what I mean? It's that punishment system, though. It's the punishment system and the way that it works, where the punishment is always more implicit than it's actually inflicted. You inflict, when you think about it, you inflict just a small amount of people, but that is enough to put everybody else in fear, so that you can keep everybody else in line. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to kill everybody. You'll kill some people, but you can, and that's the way that the system works. That's part of that system of control with the force. You know what I mean? It is implied as well as actually applied.
Right.
So you're saying, for example, the 50 plus brothers that have been murdered, we all are now thinking that, you know, this could happen to me or one of my children.
Exactly. And that
Okay.
keeps you in line.
Right.
That keeps you in line. Even to the point where we talk about sometimes when we look at our leaders, when we talk about Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Fred Hampton, Medgar Evers, all these great leaders that we have, and we look at how they ended. They all got assassinated. You know what I mean? So that we understand subconsciously that if I go down that same road, that is more than likely going to be my end. So by using actual force and assassinating these leaders, now you can also control people by implied force. I'm not saying that I'm going to kill you, but you remember what happened to Malcolm X?
Yes, right.
And that's all you need to kind of keep you in line. You
Right.
see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that's in paragraph 2, he goes into that right there. And I know, Kenyatta, you had some things to say on that as well.
Well, mine was mostly in paragraph 3.
Okay, go ahead.
And it's the part where he's talking about, in that latter part, in so-called advanced societies like the United States, force is more likely to be applied as the final persuader when compliance is not attained by other means.
Mm-hmm.
When I've read that part, it made me think of basically what you were just bringing out. And I actually wrote there and noted myself off of that. It just made me remember of the Hoover, the J. Edgar Hoover and MLK situation. You know, once again, you know, they definitely tried to persuade, you know what I'm saying, and other means before you taking the brother out. You know what I'm saying? From keeping his mouth shut on certain things. You know what I mean? But we see what the outcome was.
Exactly, exactly. And go into that a little bit with the MLK real quick, because you're right. They did try to persuade that brother first. They came to him. Is there some evidence of that, something like that?
There's plenty of evidence of that,
Right.
but the one that was most known that I believe would be when J. Edgar Hoover told him not to accept the Nobel Peace Prize. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Told him, you know what I'm saying? Don't do it. And the outcome of that was like, yo, I'll exploit you. I'll give these tapes and these pictures to your wife and let her know that you've been committing adultery.
That's right. Trying to blackmail him.
Right. And Martin Luther King, I mean, so be it. Do what you got to do. Yeah. I'm going to get my Nobel Peace Prize.
That's right.
There you go. There you go. You know, but again, you're absolutely right. Because they understand, and that's even when you think about just how the United States goes around policing and ruling the world. You know what I mean? You want to have the iron fist, but again, it's always more implied. That's always the final resort. Like we always talk about with the nuclear missile. You know what I mean? That's what those nuclear bombs say. You know what I mean? Don't make me press this button because I will. That's what they say.
Yeah.
And everybody stays in check because of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you know, even if he might not, but you don't know, he just might do it and kill everybody.
Right.
So that's what that is. Again, going into that implied, you know, I'm gonna keep you in line type thing, you know. But
because I also wrote down also inside of it. I mean that because to me those three lines they were pretty deep, right? Because I also wrote down, this is why people got whacked. And, I'm saying so many people got whacked in the '60s, including their own. So let's not forget that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
If it doesn't work in their favor, if they cannot get you to do what they want you to do, we will whack you.
Exactly.
That will be the end outcome.
Exactly.
Even like it said in the last segment right there, when we was reading typology of power. I mean, that's a type of power right there. That in the end, we will take you out if it comes down to it all day.
Exactly. Exactly. And I like too how he was kind of incorporating when talking about force as power and why you want to have it more implied than actually physically doing it.
Right.
Is the fact that it's uneconomical.
Yes.
It really is.
Absolutely.
It burns up your resources.
Yes.
You got to spend so much effort in trying to make somebody do something as opposed to getting them to willfully do it on their own.
We do it. Absolutely.
Waste of money and resources. And then you got to worry about, punishing them if they try to go against what you said. It's too much
Right.
time and money.
Right. Even when you drop bombs, you're destroying great resources.
Boom. Think about it.
So much better to control you and get you to willfully give me this. And
Exactly.
just drop bombs all over it and be like, wow.
Right.
So, because I didn't let you have it. I ain't got it, so it just doesn't exist.
Right. Right.
It's better to just go on and try and control that.
Boom. That's what the World Bank is all about. We don't need to go in there and drop bombs and kill you with bombs. We'll kill you with finance. We're going to give you loans and put you in debt and take over your country that way. You know what
Absolutely.
I'm saying? We ain't have to raise a gun.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I was thinking about that on a certain situation. I was thinking like had they had took over Vietnam, over there they got good shrimping waters. They
shrimping boats. They got a good shrimping boat.
Yeah. But what was it, Bubba? And Bubba mentioned that. Bubba mentioned that in the movie Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump, right.
When he was saying, and once we win this war and take over these waters, we be able to shrimp all throughout these waters. You know what I'm saying? Like that.
Say that, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so then it's crazy because, here it is. If the United States had got their way and did take over those parts, it would have been like the South Vietnamese who were getting the help from the United States fighting against the Northern Vietnamese, just so everyone knows. That let's say it would have went in their favor, in the South Vietnamese favor, well, then the United States would have been like, well, we helped you win this and gain all these lands, so you don't have no cash or nothing, to our interests. It has no real value to it, but you have resources that are to our value. And that way, when we give you a loan to build your city or build whatever you need to do, this is what you owe us in return.
Boom.
And by owing this in return, it comes with this kind of interest. In the end, you can't pay it back. All right, that's fine. Well, we're just going to go in and take this and this and this. And then it's all of a sudden, it's like, wow, you see thousands of American shrimp boats right there in your waters. And you guys are like, whoa, hold up. But you know what I'm saying? We got to eat.
Exactly. Exactly.
United States, so don't worry. We got to get our part first, but we're going to make sure that you're okay. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's when and in the end, that's when you realize, oh shit, I've been fucked. That's what made the North Vietnamese say, fuck you. We don't want to be down with you. That's what made Cuba say, we don't want to be down with you.
Exactly.
Okay. That's why North Korea's like, we don't want to be down with you. This is what you do.
Right.
We see everything you're doing over there in Africa. Shit, now you want to rob us of these? We're just a teeny tiny small country compared to them.
The propaganda always makes them look like the bad guys. When they're just saying, look, we just want to hold on to our own shit and do our own thing. You know what I'm saying? But the propaganda always makes them, like you're saying, look like the bad guy because they know what the game plan is.
Right. United States is walking out of Afghanistan right now.
Boom.
You've been there 20 years. You claim you did your job. All you did was rob that country of everything it has, and now you're about to bounce. That's all it is.
Right.
You know what I mean? And all those other people, you know what I'm saying, are trying to become refugees for the simple fact that, oh my goodness, I went against my country to help United States because we thought he was going to make sure we had the takeover.
Exactly.
Because you
Exactly.
can't take it over. You can't take it
Right,
over.
right.
So with that in mind, now people are trying to become refugees because the United States is bouncing. And what they're doing, they're going after anybody who helped United States. Guess what? We're coming to see you. We're knocking on your door.
Right.
Yes, you have questions to answer to.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
And they don't want to go through that
Exactly.
because they're gonna get whacked. A lot of them are gonna get whacked. You're getting whacked.
Right. Right. It's crazy as it is. Yeah.
Crazy as it is.
But yeah, it's like exactly. We understand what the politics are, you know what I mean? And that's part of the game plan, as you were saying, Kenyatta, where again, they divide the countries up, usually into a north-south, whether we're talking about North Vietnam, South Vietnam, boom, 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 and then they pit one against the other. But they all the one that just wants to hold on to their own country and not have that European influence move throughout their country, they're always portrayed as being the bad guy, the enemy, just for wanting to hold on to their own independence.
Absolutely.
And that's
Just
part of that.
because they choose to be the power to instead of the power over.
Exactly. And then that goes into the why you need to manipulate people to get them to do what you want them to do, because you can use physical force. But that's only going to take you so far. You know what I mean? You've got to brainwash people. You got to persuade people. And that's the more dangerous, type of force.
And when you go about that type of force, where you are going to cause injury or death, you have to make sure there's a certain way you go about it that way as well. You see what I'm saying? You have to make it look as though you're just as dumbfounded as the rest of the people. I don't know what the hell happened.
Right.
Or, you know what I'm saying? You have a particular person that is going to be considered the single and solo hitter. You know what I mean? This is the only person involved. No one else is involved, just them.
Right.
So
that's that. Go ahead, man.
No, I'm getting, because I know we're talking about force or power. So if we're going back in the early days of, West Africa, it had to be force because, again, brothers was like, no, I don't want to be in chains and things like that. So a lot of force was used, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Now,
right.
there's very little force being used because now they made the transition because we don't have to use force. Everybody thinks they're free. But the African knew in the beginning, no, I was free before you put a chain on me. And now all of a sudden you're marching me to these shores against my will. So a lot of force was used and a lot of money was spent with the force that they had to use, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That is true. That is true. But let me add to that as well. There was a lot of, physical force of that nature. But let's also remember persuasion to where a king was told, you can have these people right here for a year or two, and then you have to send them back. Right. They agreed to that. Right. So people willingly went because you thought you was just going to go do a job for your king. You know what I'm saying? That's what you thought. You know what I'm saying? The king told me that I'm about to go help. Did they have business that they need to take care of in their country? You know what I'm saying? Build a civilization like we have. Okay, I'm doing this in the honor of my king, and I get to come back in a few years. And these whatever you want to call them, slave traders or white power structure, whatever, complied to it. Like, yeah, we're gonna just for a year or two. Yeah. Here, king, we're giving you this, you know what I'm saying, and rent of, and they will send them back to you within 2-3 years or so. That never happened. That never happened.
Boom, exactly.
So they willingly walked on the boat. Really, and by willingly walking on the boat, don't think that every slave ship had chains.
If you're willingly there, why would they have to chain you up?
So exactly. Exactly.
That's deep.
Exactly.
'Cause
Exactly.
that's the aspect that you don't think of.
And also,
is-
let's also remember this as well. Because in our minds, even us as well, we're sitting here and we're talking about these slaves on a slave ship, and you're looking at, you're thinking in your mind, grown people like 21 up to 55. No, the
Mhm.
majority, let's make sure we let this be known. The average age was between 9 and 15.
Right.
Mhm. And I'm glad you bring that up because that's provable. There's slave ship
Absolutely. That's totally
manifests.
provable.
That's
Totally
slave
provable.
ship
I've
manifests
seen it
that
with my
you can-
own eyes. I've seen the
Yeah.
evidence with my own eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying
The
that's anything.
records show it.
That's anything that someone can look up on their own. You can just go and look up a slave ship
Absolutely.
manifest, and they
Absolutely.
always would document the heights and the ages of the people on board. So all you have to do is just kind of look, and they have all the slaves that are on board. That's by law, I believe they had to do that. But
Absolutely.
the
Absolutely.
ages and the heights.
Absolutely.
of
Very
the
rare
vast
did you
majority.
find somebody over the age of 25 to 30
Right,
or
right.
40 or something like that. Very rare.
Or what
Very
you
rare.
would see is again the predominantly is going to be between the ages of like 10 to
Absolutely.
15,
Absolutely.
20 around, you know what I mean, somewhere around there. But
Absolutely.
like he's saying, very rarely, you'll see them kind of scattered about, and they were probably more than likely to kind of keep things in line. You know what I mean? Some sort of an elder figure there to kind of
Children are
keep
going to follow
boom,
in
boom, boom.
order more
Exactly.
than anybody else.
Exactly. So, and that really does put slavery itself in perspective as well, because you realize that it was literally, arguably, not even arguably, factually, the greatest kidnapping
Totally.
in history.
Yeah,
in history.
because absolutely,
Kidnappings.
and it's a kidnapping because you knew from the giddy up, from whatever way, from making the deal with the king or kidnapping him itself, you knew that this is what you was going to do.
Right.
So essentially,
you knew these people were never going to ever see their homeland again. You knew that.
Exactly.
okay. So essentially, America committed international federal crimes.
That's a nice way to put it, and it's
Nice
true.
way to put it. I like
Nice
that.
way to
brother.
put it.
I
I mean,
like that, brother.
if we're using kidnapping, that is a federal crime, is it not?
Well, if we're going to use it as a federal crime, then first of all, we have to deal with all the ships that were bringing this about. You only commit a federal crime unless you're going across federal lines. Am I
Yeah,
right?
that is true.
So that means
waters are open.
you'd have to charge England, you'd have to charge France, you'd have to charge Portugal, you would have to charge Spain, and you would definitely have to charge the Dutch, and the United States is in there as well.
Okay. Now we got a case.
Guilty.
There it
Okay.
is.
Okay.
Guilty.
I like that. Okay.
Guilty.
Yeah.
Guilty.
Yeah. Okay.
But now what we're doing, and this is what's, again, we're conscious brothers that are able to now kind of talk about these things as, in retrospect, you know what I'm saying? But like you were bringing out, and which is the interesting point that we never really think about, is that training that happened. You know what I mean? They only had to use force, that physical force, for so long before you were mentally destroyed to the point where now you don't need chains. You know what I mean? They know how to control the way that you think. And also, as the brother Amos was pointing out, and I wanted to go into, was that self-alienating, that self-hatred that was taught to you. That was taught to you. They told you that you didn't look right. You know what I mean? Your nose is too wide, your skin is too dark, your hair is too kinky, your body is too voluptuous. They put that negative, information in our minds from the time that we were young via mediums like Disney, cartoons, different shows that were subliminally, programming us to think in a particular way, and also to be their servants. But
one of the best ways to do that is, once again, going back with that given gifts can also be used as a punishment, because when you with all those things that you said about making a person feel a certain kind of way, your nose is too wide, your skin's too dark, etc., etc. The best way to rub that in is by showing the others that aren't like you the better things of life.
Yep.
Okay.
There it
Yes.
goes.
By doing that, then you
Yes.
really make a person feel like, wow, see, if I was like them, I would have that.
Yep.
See, why did I have to be born looking like this? Instead, now you're completely negative about yourself. There's nothing positive about you. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? You've put yourself down to where you let these people have total control of you, man.
Yep. And then you take all of that self-hatred. You
Yeah,
take all of
and I
that.
just want and I just want to show just one minute, it just came to my mind too as well.
What's that?
I just want to also mention how, because let us remember during segregation, it didn't
Uh-huh.
matter if you was light skin or dark skin. You know what I'm saying? We was together. You know what I
Right.
mean? We were all being treated exactly the same way. You know,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? Once that ended and they put that privilege out there from the lighter who you are to the even to the darker you are, depending on what you're going to do as a dark skinned person. You know what I mean?
Right.
Damn, nigga. But you know what I mean? Things of that nature, then you know that you, as long as you, as if we're in a situation where we all are being treated exactly the same, knowing I'm going through the same hell as this person right here, then we understand and know how to fight together because we understand the same enemy.
Mm.
But once you done gave the guy next to me some privileges, something extra to eat or whatever, and I'm like, yo, man, we need to rebel. And you're like, what? Why, man? I got all this. Come on,
Yeah.
let's enjoy it. You hear me? Let's see where this goes. So we're not on the same page anymore. Once we're not on the same page anymore, there's a certain line I would use in the book, but I'm gonna wait till we get there.
Okay. No. If you feel like throwing it out, throw it out.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. Go and throw it out, man.
Well, you know, it's right there where Brother Amos said, you know what I mean? He said the ultimate force in the world
Uh-huh.
is the force of the mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, then he said, when that force is destroyed, all is lost.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. You know what I
That's it.
mean? You create division amongst people. They can't get organized. They can't, you know what I mean? You've got people, and again, that's all a part of what you're saying is getting people to aspire to that American dream. You create the illusion. You create what a person should want to aspire to, and then boom, you send them in that direction. You train them from the time that they're a child all the way up until they reach adulthood. This is the direction that you go into. Now, when you don't go that way, the punishment is, of course, you're going to suffer financial loss. You're going to suffer all these things. And then you have all of this, again, self-doubt and self-hatred in you. And they do what? Okay, you got all this pent-up anger. Now I'm going to put alcohol around you. I'm going to put drugs. I'm going to put the guns in front of you, and I'm going to turn you on each other. I'm going to use your own hatred, your own anger, your own disappointment, which I created.
Right.
Which I am the one that orchestrated and created and designed. I manipulated this whole thing.
Right.
And now I'm going to make you use your own negative energy and hatred against your own self. I've got
But
you.
at the same time,
It's like,
but at the
it's like
same
autonomous.
time,
Like I could take my hands off of it now and let you just do your thing.
but at the same time, so you don't take notice of it, I'm gonna make sure I got a positive side going on as well.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I'm gonna let some kids graduate from college. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let some kids get some decent jobs paying $50,000
Right.
to $100,000 a year.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let a rap star become the first billionaire.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? I'm gonna do that because it makes you look at like, why ain't that me? Or you know what I'm saying? I wish that was me.
Right,
you know
right.
what I mean? You got to keep that confusion going on.
It keeps you dreaming. It keeps you
Mhm.
dreaming, and it keeps you compliant. It keeps you in line with hey, you know what happens when you don't follow the rules? You end up here. But if you
Yes.
follow the rules, you might. We're not saying that you're going to be there. You're not. You know what I mean? You're going to keep working that job until you turn out to be 50, 60 years old and you ain't got
Right.
shit. You know what I'm saying? But you know what I mean? If you keep chasing and you keep following the rules, you stay compliant, you stay within our system, you'll be okay. But the ones that don't, those are the guys that, of course, you see them on the streets, they don't got a place to live, they're either in jail, they're strung out on drugs. This is what happens when you don't follow the rules. And that's the implied message that they send out to us at all times. At all times. You know
All
what I'm
time.
saying? That shit is crazy. But yeah, that about covers it as far as force as power is concerned. Next week, we are going to be going over, I believe it is coercion
Yeah.
as power, which will be episode 4. So we do encourage you to tune in for that one. I do want to say, I failed to mention in the beginning, but we do have an audio version of this reading, The Force as Power. So if you do not have the book, and I do highly recommend that you get the book. Again, this is called the Blueprint for Black Power, written by the late great Dr. Amos Wilson. It is an excellent book that lays out just different ways that the Black man can, one, learn how power is being used against him, and then reverse that so that we can regain power for ourselves.
Absolutely.
So I highly recommend that you go ahead and get that book. If you do not have it, we do have a reading of the section that we went over today. That is attached to the link below. And we look forward to you guys tuning in next week. Until then, peace.
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 Our own mind has to be changed. We have to change our mind about ourselves.
In what way?
A knowledge of self.